What happens when you're thinking? A brain-body connection. What happens to your body when you're thinking? This question has plagued scientists for decades, and the precise answer is still something that is the subject of research. Brain is primarily composed of neurons, which are cells that generate electrical impulses for communication. It is estimated that the human brain has close to 100 billion neurons. When the brain is making a decision, different neural networks compete with each other. Eventually, one of the networks becomes activated and produces the desired behavior. Whenever you have a thought, there is a corresponding chemical reaction in your mind and body as a result. Neurons release brain chemicals, known as neurotransmitters, which generate these electrical signals in neighboring neurons. Communication between neurons is accomplished by the movement of neurotransmitting chemicals across the gap, synapse, between them. The electrical signals propagate like a wave to thousands of neurons, which leads to thought formation. Here are some of the most well-known neurotransmitters. Adrenaline. It produced in stressful or exciting situations. Increases heart rate and blood flow, leading to physical boost and heightened awareness. Noradrenaline. It affects attention and responding actions in the brain. It also involved in fight or flight response, contracts blood vessels and increasing blood flow. Dopamine. It affects feeling of pleasure and also addiction, movement, and motivation. People repeat behaviors that lead to dopamine release. Serotonin. It contributes to well-being and happiness, which helps sleep cycle and digestive system regulation. It is affected by exercise and light exposure. GABA. It calms firing nerves in CNS. High levels of GABA improve focus, but low levels cause anxiety. It also contributes to motor control and vision. Acetylcholine. It involved in thought, learning and memory, then activates muscle action in the body. It is also associated with attention and awakening. Glutamate. It is the most common brain neurotransmitter that involved in learning and memory. It regulates development and reaction of nerve contacts. Endorphins. It released during exercise and excitement, producing well-being and euphoria, as well as reducing pain. One theory explains that our external environment leads to a pattern of neuron firing, which results in a thought process. A continuous pattern of neuronal firing reinforces the circuitry. This means that if we are put in the same situation twice, the firing of our neurons is going to be similar and reinforced. This is why people tend to react the same way to similar situations. Your brain is constantly receiving signals, whether from the outside environment in terms of perceptions or memories from your past. In this way, your thoughts grow more complex as they interact with other content produced by your brain functions. Neuroscientists use MRI technology that indirectly measure the brain signals. MRI takes advantage of a special property of the blood. It is more or less magnetic, depending on how much oxygen it contains. By measuring the strength of the magnetic signal, MRI can tell us how much oxygen is in the blood in different parts of the brain at different times. For example, based on MRI and social interaction simulation, the following results obtained. Note: no part of the brain is ever off. At any one time, your brain is doing many things that you are not even aware of. To figure out which brain regions are involved in a certain type of thinking, we need to find the regions that are more active during that type of thinking than they are during other types of thinking. Nutrients contribute to brain function and chemicals. Recent evidence suggests that nutritional deficiencies could alter your brain's normal chemistry, which may impact your thought processes as well. If your diet is deficient in essential nutrients, your neurons will fire abnormally, and your thoughts may not be at their best. What's outside the body also influences the mind. The environment floods the brain with the equivalent of about 10 megabytes of information per second. A lot of that input remains subconscious. One example is temperature. We can feel when it gets too hot, but relatively subtle differences in temperature are often imperceptible to us. A study by Solomon Xiang of Princeton showed how a slight difference in temperature can dramatically influence incidences of violence and aggression. A couple of the studies he cited involved firearms training for police in the Netherlands. Changing the room temperature in which they were doing their exercises made them fire their guns more or less. There are some aspects of what makes you that are probably embedded fully in the brain, such as episodic memory of things that happen, which you can picture in the mind's eye. But when you think about what makes a person, there are a lot of things that go into it. One of the primary things is personality. Then how do we behave when faced with certain types of challenges? These things are closely tied to emotions and brings us back to the point of the fundamental role of the body in emotional responses. Explaining human behavior in terms of brain function alone stems from a kind of mystical view of the brain and keeps us from advancing in a way that science can encourage us. Alright, that's all. Thank you. Here are some references used in this video